Welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Hello and welcome to the MMA Fan Show. I'm Stu Whiffin. Joining me always, Blake Harrison. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm all right. We're having this conversation like we've just bumped into each other. We've already recorded with Carl Frampton.
We have. Carl Frampton was on the show. A flipping great chat with Carl. I don't know why. We swear on this show, but sometimes I feel weird about swearing. What if people are listening with their kids in the car or something like that? You know?
Yeah, he was an absolute stone cold boxing legend. And that episode's coming your way soon. Not before we have a good chat about something even more exciting. But before we even do that, we want to shout out our sponsor. Our sponsor is ferociousfightwear.com. If you want to get your rash guards, your shorts, your gum shields, your wraps, head over there. They're a small independent company that are growing rapidly, and they were super kind. Reached out to us, said could they be involved in the show, and we've worked together, and we're super proud to have them as a sponsor. So it's ferociousfightwear.com. Go check them out. Why are we excited today? What are we talking about?
Oh, my God. I'm so excited to talk about this.
You've been excited all morning.
Buzzing to talk about this. I'm a little bit heavy because I've had a nice meaty sandwich just now on the lunch break. Looked
like a serious sandwich, that, by the way.
Oh, mate, bit of avocado, mayo, chicken, and a bit of tiger bread. Ooh, lovely stuff, sir. Don't mind if I do.
Washed down for a protein bar, bag of crisps.
Yeah. And a Coke, so
Pains me how lean you are the way you eat.
But yes, talking of lean, we got two lean, mean fight machines.
That's the most tenuous link we've done yet. 100%.
They are both lean. It's Sean O'Malley and Vera headlining UFC 299. Before we get into the specifics of this fight, this card is insane.
It's ridiculous.
It's so good. And I can't believe that this card is then followed by UFC 300, which is probably top to toe even better. I know, look, we've made our comments about the main event. As much as it's a very good fight, it didn't feel very kind of like UFC 300-y, but as a card top to bottom, it's like maybe one of the best cards ever, UFC 300. And this is not far behind.
It's not far behind.
It's so good.
I think any fight on the main card of this and 300 could headline any card throughout the year.
Oh, my God. Yeah. There's loads of like fight cards, fight night week cards that could do with some of the prelims of this as their headliner. It's absolutely insane. This is one of the ones where I'm thinking, I think I might have to stay up and watch this live.
Oh, hello.
That's when you know it's good. Yeah. When I'm like, I'm going to be tired and I don't care because it's that damn good. So, I just... how much are you looking forward to just the card overall?
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, when you look at like the prelims, you just think there's headline fights in the prelims. It's ridiculous. Like, I'm super hyped for it. But do you know what? I know this is all about 299, and we've mentioned the episode that's coming up with Carl Frampton shortly. Can we just quickly just shout out a couple of things that happened at the weekend? Because we had the UFC at the weekend. And I just want to shout out Christian Leroy Duncan's performance. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was really, really brilliant. Yeah. Got him down and finished him with elbows, didn't he? Yeah. After piecing him up on the feet as well, pretty well. Looked really good. Lost his debut, and then since then has just come. He did lose his debut, didn't he?
Yeah.
In London, and then he's come on incredibly well since then. Someone I'd love to get on the show actually as well. Yeah. Looking really, really good, Christian Leroy Duncan. And
also, I just want to touch on Makayev. Because there was a lot of talk in the lead up to this that if he wins this, he could get the title shot. The way that everything's looking, the way that a lot of fights are tied up, it's a very big possibility that could have happened. Do you think his performance hindered that? Because he won, but let's be honest, it wasn't an exciting fight, was it?
It would be... No, I think you're being harsh if you say it wasn't exciting. It did have some exciting moments. It wasn't like a barn burner, crazy fight, whatever. But it was good. It was a good fight. I think Alex Perez, because of his inactivity and the amount of cancellations he's had with his fights and stuff, maybe doesn't get the respect he deserves as a fighter, because a lot of people get annoyed with him because he has so many fights booked and pulls out. But I think that it was a really good win. I think he could get the title shot off the back of it, but it wasn't a performance that makes you go, this guy's fighting for the belt next.
Yeah.
But just because of the way the division has played out, makes me think maybe he will anyway. He did tweet some stuff or whatever afterwards about the fact that he was ill. He had some staph infections and stuff like that. So again, to beat someone like, he's 23 years old, I think, Makayev, 23 or 24. Very, very young. Only getting better.
Yeah.
If he's ill and beating Alex Perez, then I think, you just... I'd be happy for him to take the shot, because I don't think there's anyone else. Unless you say Amir Albazi can just jump straight in there, because he has got a win over a bigger opponent in Kai Kara France, but it was a very controversial win. So, yeah, I don't know. But I definitely think I don't want to see the Royval fight again for Pantoja. Moreno's just lost. It can't be Moreno. Nicolao's coming off a loss. Manel Cap can't make weight. We've discussed this before. I think other than Albazi, Makayev's the guy, and Albazi's last win was a while ago now in a controversial split decision, I think, over Kai Kara France. Makayev's a bit more recent. So I think Makayev could get the shot. I'd be happy with him getting the shot. But I'd imagine on that performance, when you think of someone like Pantoja, I can see it going. Maybe it would go the way of like a George St. Pierre. Because didn't he lose his first fight to Matt Hughes? His first title shot. He lost it to Matt Hughes, I believe, if memory serves. Then he went away, came back, and became this dominant champion. I can see Mohammed Makayev doing the same thing. He might go and fight Pantoja, lose, but he's fought for the belt. His ranking will be up there. Then he grows and learns from that loss. And then he goes on and becomes a really dominant champion. I can totally see that happening.
I didn't think his striking looked that good. It didn't. I thought Perez's striking looked better, but I don't think I don't think Perez is anything in the striking department that you're going to get if you fight Royval, Pantoja, or Moreno. I think there's. Just looking on the socials, there was a lot of people saying, his journey this far has been solid, but when you get into that top five, there's levels, and I don't know. I mean, he fights, for the UK, so I want to see him, get the title. He seems like a solid young lad, and it's he had a lot of hype on his shoulders very early on, and so far. He's not lost. And I just think, I've mentioned it before, I don't necessarily find his fights super entertaining. And I think, yes, he picked him up and slammed him on his head. There's a bit for the highlight reel there, I guess. Yeah,
that was like belly to back kind of suplex he did. That was really good.
But on the whole, it just felt like not a particularly exciting fight all round. It was all right. Yeah. But yeah, if he gets the shot, fantastic. What an opportunity. Yeah,
I think he would not get the shot if it wasn't for the division being in a very difficult place. Had Amir Albazi not pulled out of the Moreno fight, one of them would be getting the shot. Yeah. Had Royval not fought Pantoja only a couple of months ago, then Royval would be getting a shot. And Royval might still get the shot. People might argue that's still a more competitive fight because Royval is very good, and look what he did with the Moreno fight. But I personally don't want to see it. I'd rather see Makayev get thrown in there and just see what happens. See if he can prove some people wrong, and
Well, we ain't got to worry about that for a while, because we're going to be entertained this Saturday in what will no way be a dull fight. Chookagian O'Malley versus Vera. Just looking at them both like on the screen here, I can't wait for this fight.
I can't wait for this fight. I just say I can't wait for this card. Strap yourselves in, viewers, because this is going to be, viewers and listeners, this is going to be a long episode. I've got more notes on this fight card than I've ever had for any fight card, and by quite a long way.
Okay.
Quite a long way.
How's this play out?
Well, I mean, so The factors to think about are the first fight. Can we actually take anything from that first fight? My answer would be not really. Did Cheeto win that fight? Yes, of course he did. But has O'Malley got a point in that? Not that the loss doesn't count. Of course it counts. But there was a specific kind of kick that Cheeto did that I think if he did it in 10 fights, wouldn't have had the impact he had. Like the accumulation of low kicks, calf kicks, all that stuff. We've seen that on a lot of fighters do huge amounts of damage and the fighters can't walk properly. That wasn't what this was. This was like one kick that somehow hit a certain nerve on O'Malley's leg that meant that he just couldn't use that foot anymore. I think it was his left foot, I can't remember, but there was that clip of him stepping forward and just completely rolling over on his ankle. A bit like what happened to Cejudo in the Demetrius Johnson second fight. But Cejudo was able to pull it back. O'Malley couldn't, and Vera smelt blood and finished him, and comprehensively finished him on the ground. I mean, I know that I say comprehensively, people are going to roll their eyes at that. The ref did step in quick, but I think we knew the fight was over, and I think he landed some big elbows. There was only one way that fight was going. I don't see O'Malley getting out of that situation.
No, not at all.
So
what's changed?
Well, nothing's changed, but just can this happen again in the same way? I don't think so. So I think we're going to get a different kind of fight. Now, I think overall O'Malley is a better overall fighter than Cheeto Vera. I think he's got slicker striking, better movement. The thing that Cheeto has... On the feet. Yes, but I think Cheeto's shown a lot of holes in his ground game, like his wrestling. Like the way he's lost fights recently has been like Sandhagen pinning him down and taking him out. And I'm trying to think who it was maybe before that did the same thing. Oh, even in the Frankie Edgar fight where he obviously won by that vicious front kick to the face, Frankie Edgar took him down and pinned him down quite comfortably in the first round.
Yeah, I thought Cruz was beating him until he got stopped as well.
So, but I don't see O'Malley trying to take him down. And I don't really see Vera trying to do that to O'Malley. Maybe if one of them gets hit with a big shot, then you might see someone shoot out of sort of desperation. But I don't think that's going to be the game plan for either of them. I think this fight...
big chin, Vera.
Well, that's the thing. That is the thing that makes me think this could go his way, is that what's going to be more powerful? O'Malley's hands or Cheeto's chin? What do you want in a fight? O'Malley's power or Cheeto's durability? Because Cheeto has shown that he can eat 3 or 4 strikes and then give you one back, and his one is more powerful than your 4 combined. We saw that in the Rob Font fight. I think we saw that somewhere else as well, where he was getting outstruck quite comfortably, but was landing bombs when he threw, and the impact it had, particularly with the Rob Font fight, you were like, wow, this guy's power is something else, especially when you combine that with his durability, his ability to take these shots and volumes of strikes. And his face is very rarely ever marked up. I can't remember the last time I saw Cheeto with like a big cut or swelling around the eye or anything like that. But O'Malley could arguably be the most powerful striker that he's fought recently or to date. So I think there's definitely a world there where Cheeto does get hit, and he could get hit bad by O'Malley. But equally, if Cheeto's chin survives the O'Malley onslaught in the first couple of rounds...
This is how I see it going.
Cheeto's got great cardio as well.
Always comes on strong later in fights as well.
He really does. So can we see him... Can this go the way of like what I've had thoughts of, and this is maybe a bit silly, but is Pereira Adesanya 1?
Maybe.
Where like O'Malley's winning the fight. Maybe there's been some scrappy wrestling in there, but O'Malley's winning the fight. He's had some really good moments. And then round 5 comes along and Cheeto's like, well, it's kill or be killed now. And you know, if anyone's got that kind of like, I am going to go out on my shield, I'm not going to play it safe, it's kill or be killed.
Yeah.
Cheeto's that guy.
Absolutely.
And I think he could come out, maybe back O'Malley up and land something big. And he might do it. It's not a foregone conclusion at all. As much as I think O'Malley's the better fighter, Cheeto possesses some skills that could really cause O'Malley some problems.
Right. Who are you picking?
Well, I don't know. I feel like there's maybe more to talk about. Go on, you tell me how you think it plays out.
I think O'Malley will definitely take the first couple of rounds. I think he'll use his range, and I think he'll pick him apart a bit. I think he's going to be aware that Cheeto's got a pretty solid chin. Maybe he'll throw some liver shots, and he'll try and go at the body a little bit. I don't know, but I see Cheeto coming on strong from round 3 onwards, and I think, I don't know about a stoppage, but I think we might see Cheeto by decision.
See, I think maybe if it goes to a decision, I think O'Malley wins it.
Well, look,
but I think it might be O'Malley wins the first 2 rounds. Round 3 might be a little bit iffy, but maybe just O'Malley. And 4 and 5, O'Malley's lucky to get out of there.
Look,
but scrapes the decision, something like that.
I'm not saying there's corruption, right, in combat sports. I'm not saying that, right? But let's look at the pictures, right? So we look at Suga Show O'Malley and we look at Cheeto Vera, right? Who's the rock star there, right? Who's the money maker, right? Now, look, I love Cheeto. I think I could watch him all day long. He's one of the most exciting fighters in the division. If you're a casual fan and you want to get involved in watching the UFC a little bit more, you're going to look at that. You're going to look at the Suga Show and go, sign me up. I want to watch this guy. And I think if it does go to if it's a close fight, I feel for Cheeto because I don't think it's going to go his way.
I can't get on board with the judges are going to be favouring it in favour of one fight or another. There's probably a lot of people out there that's like, Blake, you're being naive, maybe, but I can't believe and get on board with that. I'm sure there's plenty of examples where, you know, someone has won when you're like, oh, I didn't expect that to happen on the scorecards, or that wasn't the favourite that won, or something like that. I don't know. It's
a quick question then. So let's imagine, right, that this happens, right, and but Cheeto gets the decision, right? Does Suga get an instant rematch?
We spoke about this when we did our Champions Predictions episode, which again, one of my favourite ever episodes that we do. If you haven't seen our Champions Predictions episodes, please go and watch that. I think it's one of our most viewed, the most viewed, especially since getting into the studio, which is lovely. So thank you for watching that if you've watched it. But yeah, it's good fun. We're just kind of picking who we think is going to be champs by the end of the year. And we did bring up, I think, this moment of if Cheeto beats O'Malley, particularly if there's any form of controversy over it whatsoever, do they give O'Malley an immediate rematch because of the money? That's more likely, I think, than judges being in on a conspiracy where they're going to give it to O'Malley when they should have given it for Cheeto. But I think that's a possibility. It would be really unfair. I really hope that wouldn't happen. Merab is waiting. Merab is next, and he should be next. And Dana's sort of said as much.
Yeah.
But if there's any way to get O'Malley back into a main event for a belt, if he's lost it to Cheeto, I'm sure the UFC will strongly consider taking that. But I think it should be Merab next. So I wouldn't like that, but yeah, it's possible.
Who do you want to win?
I want Cheeto to win.
Yeah, so do I.
Because I just think O'Malley might disrupt the division too much, and it's too good of a division to be disrupted. There's some divisions in the UFC where you're like, oh, well, they could move up or they could do this or whatever, just because there's not anyone that's standing out to me. But bantamweight's not that division. You've got Merab. Umar Nurmagomedov fought at the weekend, called out Corey Sandhagen, who's one of my favourite fighters ever, and we've had on this show before.
Fair play for calling him out.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Who the fuck wants Sandhagen's heat?
Yeah, but who wants Nurmagomedov's?
True.
And Sandhagen is probably the only guy in the division that's accepted a fight with Nurmagomedov in that kind of highly ranked positions. No one wants to fight Umar. Sandhagen will, because he's an absolute beast of a man and I love him. But yeah,
Sandhagen beat Sean O'Malley.
I think so. I think so too, because Sandhagen's so well-rounded. As we've seen, like where he just held Rob Font down with a torn tricep.
You're talking about former guest of the show, Corey Sandhagen, aren't you?
Yes, that's his full name, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, no, I don't know. We're going around in circles. I've sort of lost my train of thought, but I want Cheeto because I think if O'Malley does win, there is a chance that he tries to pull a Conor and fight like a Ryan Garcia or whoever else is in the boxing world that is a good big fight for him. There's also, like, he's mentioned that Ilia Poirier is his Eddie Alvarez. He ain't, mate. He really isn't. But there's a world in which he tries to go up and do that. And I just want to see whoever wins this fight to take on Moroz next, because Moroz deserves it. And then I want to see them fight, ideally Sandhagen, but maybe Umar if they make that kind of fight. There's enough good fighters at bantamweight that deserve their shot at the title.
So it could be the most exciting division right now.
I think it's probably lightweight, but bantamweight is for sure up there and has been for a long time. It's such a brilliant division. But yeah, so yeah, I would like to see Chito win because of that. But if Sean wins, like, he is a superstar, isn't he? And he's going to be massive for the sport. Maybe this episode will get more clicks because Sean O'Malley's in it and all that kind of stuff. And so from our perspective as like people doing this, you want the big stars to be in it so you can talk about them more, so people come over to your YouTube page, podcast, whatever it is. But for me personally, just as a fan of the sport, taking all this away from it, just as a pure fan of the sport, I think it's better if Chito wins. But what do I know? Can I give you a random stat that
yes, please.
I've heard about? In their first fight, John Anik comes out with did you rewatch the first fight at all?
No.
So John Anik comes out with a mental stat that I've always remembered but thought I misremembered, because I'm like, that can't be true. But it must be, because John Anik said it.
Yeah.
And John Anik doesn't lie.
No.
Both Chito Vera and Sean O'Malley have longer leg reaches than Stipe Miocic. Former heavyweight champion Stipe Miocic. That's baffling, isn't it?
That's insane.
That's insane. So I'm guessing it's like hip to toe or hip to heel ratio.
Sugar, maybe, because he's quite wiry.
Chito's really long, though.
God.
They must have really tiny torsos. Like, or maybe Stipe's got a really long torso and short legs.
Jesus. Now I can just picture Stipe just like where he's on his knees with his shoes on his knees. Yeah. That's all I can imagine.
But that's what John Anik said in their first fight. He said both these guys have got longer leg reaches than Stipe Miocic, who at the time I think was the heavyweight champ.
That's insane.
That's insane, isn't it?
Jesus.
That's so weird. It's like Mr. Tickle in reverse, like with his long legs. They've both got really stupidly long legs.
Oh, amazing.
Kicking each other in the head from the other side of the octagon. But yeah, there you go. There's a nice little stat for you guys if you want to go and repeat that to your friends.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, mate, every picture you put up here, I'm just in love with.
We've just thrown out Benoit Saint-Denis versus the wonderful Dustin Poirier. I mean, this is a fight I don't think anyone saw coming. No. I mean, we often sort of said that division was sort of clogged up at the top 155, and we thought that Dustin was, going to just wait for the big money fights to fight, and he's took on a killer that's on a tear.
And it's ranked 12th.
Yeah.
Like, not even technically in the top 10. Good on you, Dustin. You've absolutely smashed this.
Absolutely. And, I mean, this is a dangerous fight for Dustin. It's a dangerous fight for Saint-Denis as well.
But make no mistake, like, it's dangerous in the cage, but Dustin's got way more to lose than Benoit Saint-Denis.
Oh, 100%.
If Benoit loses to Dustin and he's ranked 12th and Dustin is ranked 3rd, you're like, well, you've lost. You might go on another 4 or 5 fight win streak, find yourself in the same position. No problem. If Dustin loses this and he's on a 2-fight losing streak for the first time in his career, I think that's maybe kissing the belt goodbye.
Yeah, I think that's...
I mean, he's such a huge name that he maybe is only ever 1 or 2 away. But I'm guessing he's about 34, 35.
Do you know what? Like,
he's not got long left at the top end of the division.
I think he wins.
I do as well.
Yeah.
We've just not seen Benoit up against someone of this level yet. If Benoit wins, oh my God.
I mean...
It's like, what? Incredible.
He just looks like the angriest man. Even his press shot. I don't know. I mean, obviously you can see from Dustin's, he's standing there, he's not smiling. Benoit looks like he's about to attack the photographer. Like, he looks, if he opens that mouth, he looks like he's just going to go, og.
He looks like he's eating chewing tobacco. It's like there's a line going there, like he's chewing on some chewing tobacco or something.
Yeah, he just looks like he's exhaling through his nose in anger. Like, I mean, watching Benoit's rise over the last couple of years has been so exciting. You know, his performance in Paris was ridiculous. Just a super exciting fighter. But this is some step up. This is you're fighting the person that's been in there with everyone. Yeah. You know, the most well-rounded, the biggest hitters. You know, he's been in there, and he's beat most of them. And I think, well, it's what makes this so exciting. And this is the biggest opportunity Benoit's going to get. So this is probably would normally have maybe cost him 2 or 3 fights to have got in the title contention. Whereas if he beats Dustin, he's up there, you know, he's in them talks, you know. And
we can get onto this a little bit later, but there's sort of a crazy lightweight tournament happening in front of our eyes at the moment, and we'll get onto that in a minute. And this fight is a big part of that. But carry on with what you're saying.
But I just think when he gets into the trenches, I think Dustin's so comfortable in there, and I don't know. But
one thing that's really important, I think, this is a 5-round co-main event. Mm-hmm. It is not a 3-rounder. Yeah. I think 3 rounds maybe could have favoured Benoit, but this is a 5-round, and we know Dustin is always on point with his cardio. We know he's tough as anything. Like the Michael Chandler fight, he was losing big parts of that fight, came back strong. The first Justin Gaethje fight, incredible. Eddie Alvarez fights, like this man, Dan Hooker, this man goes to war with people. And we're saying that, and he's fighting a guy that has literally been to war. It's been in counter-terrorism in the French army and stuff like that. But I just think Benoit is a very, very good wrestler as well, and he's good with his takedowns. If Dustin keeps this on the feet, I really think this could be a fight of the year contender. Not a fight of the night, but potentially fight of the year. And I think that, especially as the fight goes long, I think it favours Dustin. I think if you're Benoit, the smart thing to do is to try and implement the wrestling. The only problem is when Benoit tries to wrestle you, I think a lot of what he does is he kind of in a brawling kind of fashion that's incredibly exciting to watch. He backs you up to the fence, swings at you a few times, then dips for a takedown. One thing Dustin is really, really good at is having his back to the fence and picking off counters. He did it to Michael Chandler, and Michael Chandler, I'd say, hits harder than Benoit Saint-Denis. Maybe is less technical in his striking because Chandler's so explosive. But Poirier, with his back to the fence, rolling with shots and then coming back with counters, there's not really many people better. I mean, and I think that's where he could really clip him.
Hitters that are the precision, Conor McGregor.
Yeah,
you know, and well, we'll see what happened there.
But I think Benoit's what's the word, like habit of kind of getting into these brawls and backing people up in a slightly kind of reckless way at times might really play into Dustin's hands, because he could land that big counter shot like he did against Michael Chandler, and we've seen him do it countless other times, and it could be just a bit too much of a step up for Benoit Saint-Denis, Benny Saint-Denis. But Benoit Saint-Denis looked so good, and he's getting more and more well-rounded. He is good with his jiu-jitsu. He's good with his wrestling. His striking has come on loads. He's, again, super tough, which is why I think we really love this fight, because both guys can do that. And if Benoit wins, depending on the lay of the land, I think he's probably 1 away from a title shot, but there's a world in which he gets a title shot next. Because, as I mentioned earlier, we're in a weird tournament situation in the lightweight division. Islam has said he wants to fight in June. So, will Gaethje Holloway winner be ready for June after potentially being in an absolute war in April? Probably not. After that, you've got Arman Tsarukyan and Oliveira. That's on the same night at UFC 300. If there's a quick victory, then sure, they could turn around for June maybe. But 2 and a bit months later to turn around and fight Islam Makhachev, maybe neither of them will be ready. The winner of this could be ready when the others aren't. I mean, there's also Gamrot RDA, which is on this card as well. But that is so low profile in comparison to this fight and those other 2 fights that they're probably the last person that's called up. These guys are going to be behind the Gaethje Holloway winner and behind the Arman Tsarukyan and Oliveira winner, But because that fight's happening next month at 300, and Islam says he wants to fight in June, there is definitely a world where the winner of this fight fights Makhachev in June for the belt.
And I think, who would you like to see fight Makhachev? I'm not desperate to see Oliveira again.
No. Arman Sarukian's the answer for me.
Yeah, okay.
He's the stylistically the toughest matchup for Islam. The best fight, I think. Will the build-up be amazing? Maybe not. But I think Arman Sarukian Islam, we've had it once before when Arman came in on short notice, I believe, in his UFC debut, and he gave Islam a really good fight then. Arman's grown and learned and improved. That fight now, for me, is the toughest fight for Islam in the division. What about you? Who do you want to see fight Islam?
Benoit Saint-Denis.
Really? Over Gaethje, over Poirier, over...
I'm not interested in Oliveira. I'm not really interested in Gaethje fighting Islam. I think Benoit, his wrestling, I think, could make it a really interesting fight. Yeah.
Interesting. But that's so great. Look at lightweight, though. These young fighters coming through, doing bits. And I know that, like, Gamrot had a slip-up against Benil Dariush, but he's fighting on this card and he's a phenomenal fighter. Jalen Turner had a slip-up against Dan Hooker, but came back and beat Bobby Green and looks really good and possesses great skills as well. Like, there's some really top young lightweight prospects coming through that... Yeah, just going to really make this division really exciting for the next few years. And speaking of exciting, oh, mama! MVP in the UFC.
Oh, look at that. There he is. Former guest of the show, Michael Venom Page in them UFC shorts. If you've not listened to our chat, MVP was kind enough to come down the studio just ahead of his announcement that he was moving to the UFC. And for comedy value, you need to go and watch Blake put the spotlight on him and literally grill him and interrogate him. It was great. MVP, one of the nicest guys I think we've had on the show. Just such a absolute diamond. Yep. And, you know, people often talk about, you know, love to have seen Fedor in the UFC. Obviously, we never got to see that. And I think for years, people have been saying, when we're going to see MVP in the UFC, is it ever going to happen? Well, it's happening. And versus Kevin Holland. I mean, this is the perfect debut fight for MVP. I know that, you know, we spoke about Wonderboy would have been great, and you know, won't go into it. MVP talks about the potential fight with Wonderboy and how he feels that would go on the episode. So go and listen to that. But for me, this is fantastic. I mean, this isn't a soft launch into the UFC. This is Kevin Holland. This is a serious, you know, fighter in Kevin Holland, and I think
it's not a soft launch, but it is favourable.
Okay,
because they haven't given MVP Sean Brady or. You know, I know Bilal's probably going for the belt, but they've not given him a wrestler.
Yeah, but...
They've given him someone that will probably try and stand and fight with him. And we'll go into this in a minute because I think Kevin Holland made some mistakes in the fight with Wonderboy where he didn't implement grappling and wrestling. And I think he regrets that.
Well, they made their little pact, didn't they?
They did.
You know, where they were going to keep it standing. And what we got was a really interesting striking fight. And,
great fight.
And
really fun.
To see that happen here, and I'm glad the UFC have given him a striker to start, because what's going to happen is those that may not be familiar with Michael Venom Page, the casuals that are watching because O'Malley's headlining his card, and they're going to get to see MVP do what he does best, which is flamboyant striking.
Oh my God.
It'll be so good to see him get like a stoppage, an incredible celebration, add to that ridiculous highlight reel he's got, and make a statement in the UFC on his debut. And then I think we've got some exciting fights ahead. And as you mentioned with your Brady's and with your Bilal, some fights that probably won't be as exciting and be more problematic for MVP.
Yeah, I mean, look, the worry for MVP is that he's moved over to the UFC too late. I think he's 38 years old. You know, he's got a style that relies on explosivity and speed and stuff like that. So, but It doesn't look like he's slowed down in any of his previous fights, really. So hopefully he's still got that. Hopefully that will leave him at a later stage and he can be a bit of a genetic freak, and that Father Time will wait a bit longer before it starts taking away some of those attributes from him. If we get the MVP that we all know we can get, if we get the best MVP, I think he smokes Kevin Holland, smashes him, and does it in style. And he's probably got a really great celebration already planned out for it. You know, Michael Venom Page brings the show. You know, he will talk a little bit at the start. Be respectful. He's not a disrespectful guy. Be respectful, but then he'll bring it in the cage. He'll be dancing whilst fighting. He'll be throwing elaborate kicks and flying knees and all this stuff. And then at the end of it, he'll do a celebration that will go viral. Yeah. You know, like... That's what Michael Venom Page brings, and I really, really want to see it. However, as we mentioned earlier, Kevin Holland in the Wonder Boy fight, he made that pact to not do any wrestling and grappling, to keep it on the feet. Massively regrets that, I think, now, because there were moments where they sort of landed on each other from a clinch, and there was a trip, and he landed on each other, and Kevin Holland just stood up and waved Wonder Boy to get up. Terrible decision if you want to win that fight. And if he does a similar thing with MVP, I think MVP will land something on him eventually that really, I don't know about puts him out, because Kevin Holland, again, durability and toughness, he's got it. But I just think Kevin Holland will probably have an advantage in the grappling here. And he's got those kind of like long, slim arms that he can wrap up a choke quite quickly. I mean, just ask Michael Chiesa. Michael Chiesa's a very good grappler. And Kevin Holland was able to submit him because I think Chiesa underestimated his grappling. And Kevin Holland's, he's those sneaky kind of anacondas and Darce chokes and or guillotines and stuff like that, where you're like, oh, I didn't expect that. And these arms just kind of come out of nowhere and then they're around your throat. Kevin Holland can do that. He has that skill set. So MVP has to be very, very careful in case Kevin Holland tries to mix in some takedowns. And if you're Kevin Holland's coach, you're probably saying in that first round, just even if you don't get it, just go for a takedown to give him something else to think about. Yeah. That's what I would be doing if I was in Kevin Holland's corner. You don't want MVP getting in his comfort zone of just moving around and just picking it up. Absolutely. No way. He will explode with something that you're not seeing and all of a sudden you're staring up at the lights. So, yeah. I mean, if you're Kevin Holland, you try and go for the takedowns. You try and mix in a bit more grappling, jiu-jitsu, get those kind of nasty chokes in. But he's great on the feet as well, Kevin Holland. He can definitely do something. Does his ego make it so that he's like, no, I'm going to beat you on the feet? Maybe he can do it, but I think if you play that game with MVP, he's gonna start you. So it's just great to see him in the UFC. It is. I'm so excited to see this, to see him at weigh-ins and stuff. It's like there he is as MVP in the UFC. It's fantastic. Okay, staying at 170. Big fight again. Gilbert Burns versus Jack Della Maddalena. Jack Della Maddalena. Jack Della Maddalena. Maddalena. I mean, you think they would have airbrushed Jack Della Maddalena's nose a little bit better for this? What, a bit straighter? Like, God, I mean, that's a bloke. That's a boxer's face. That's a bloke that come to fight, wasn't it? Yeah. And I mean, look at Gilbert Burns' ears. There's a guy that comes to wrestle. Yeah. I mean, this is a fantastic fight, right? It's another brilliant fight. Big opportunity for JDM, who's ranked 11th, to go against 4th ranked Gilbert Burns, who's challenged for the belt before. Huge step up for JDM. I'm just wondering if Burns is a bad stylistic matchup for him. Just because I rewatched, obviously, Jack's last fight was Kevin Holland, which he won by split decision. Close fight. But before that, he took on Basil Havez, who was making his UFC debut. It was short notice, so Jack didn't have a lot of time to prepare and know what he was getting into. So, you know, you've got to give Jack some credit for coming through that fight. But again, it was a split decision, and Havez took him down regularly, putting in some difficult positions on the ground, threatened some arm triangles. Jack was able to get back to his feet, put it on him a bit, win that fight. Havez gassed out again. He took that fight on short notice as well. You got a Gilbert Burns who's got a similar skill set from what I can see to Havez, but better. Better grappling. Maybe more explosive striking. Has been at the top level for ages and has got a full tank of gas. I think this could be problems for Jack Della Maddalena. He might have bitten off more than he can chew here. And unless he's been really working hard in his takedown defense, if he finds himself on his back with Gilbert Burns with, say, I don't know, a minute to go or more, I think he could be in big, big trouble.
That's got to be the game plan for Burns, surely.
Yes.
Like, because you know how comfortable he is in there. I think Burns gets the decision win on this quite comfortably.
I think he could even sub him. Because I think Burns has got, like, Jack's got, for me, one or two ways to win this fight. It's all to do with striking. He either kind of knocks him out or he'll just keep him at bay, land really good body shots. He probably should be going to the body a lot to try and... It's easier to defend the takedowns when you're going for the body with striking. So if he's doing that, maybe getting in a decent low kick or two every now and again.
Gilbert Burns is no new kid on the block. He'd weather that. He's way too experienced.
But there's only so much you can wear. If someone's smashing you in the stomach, there's only so much you can do. But he'll probably be expecting it. But yeah, I just think Burns has got more ways to win because he can clip him with a big shot. Gilbert Burns throws with power when he throws. Not the most technical of strikers, but definitely throws with power, can clip you. Club and sub could be on, or he could go for the takedowns and try and put you on the back because his wrestling's massively improved. Gilbert Burns is probably one of the best examples we've had of a jiu-jitsu guy who then improves his wrestling. Like, we'd love to see Paul Craig use the kind of takedowns in the ways that Gilbert Burns has been able to do recently against the likes of Wonderboy and people like that. You've got, who's it? Mackenzie Dern, who can't quite put the takedowns together enough to help her with a grappling game. Gilbert Burns is the guy that can do that a bit more. He's way better at the takedowns for a jiu-jitsu guy than, like, say, Damian Maia was and people like that. So I think he's just got more ways to win. He's dangerous in a lot of areas. It gives Jack a lot to have to worry about. And I think when you have to think too much and you're worried about all those things, that's when a mistake could be made that lets Gilbert in on a takedown or in on a big strike.
Okay, should we move on?
Can do, yeah. I mean, yeah, let's go.
So you want to talk about Yudong and Petr.
I would love to talk about Yudong. It's a big fight for Jan, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, 2 years ago, even after he'd lost the belt to Aljo in the first fight, he had beaten Aljo from pillar to post, and that stupid illegal knee meant he lost his belt. But no one came away from that fight thinking Aljo's better than Petr. Everyone came away going, well, we know Jan's better. We've just seen it with our own eyes. Aljo's won by DQ, whatever, but Jan's the best bantamweight on the planet. Flash forward 2 years, not only does he lose to Aljo in a rematch, but arguably controversially, you know, it was a very close fight. Then he fights Sean O'Malley. Again, controversial split decision loss, but it's a loss. Then he fights Merab and gets like 50-45. And now he is staring down the barrel of a 4-fight losing streak. Where does he go from here if he loses this fight? Where is his confidence at right now when he's staring across at a guy that's like 26 years old, is jacked for bantamweight, looks really, really good? Like, where's your confidence at if you're Petr? I just don't know.
Well, he's got to look at, you know, aside from the last and he's got to look at how tight them decisions were on the previous fights. You know, he's never looked like a slouch in there. He's boxing. He's ridiculous. Like, he's one of my favourite strikers to watch, Petr. I don't know. I think his team must be saying, right, look, you've got to win this.
That's helpful. No, yeah, I know. Thanks, coach.
Yeah, no, seriously.
No, seriously, you've got to win this one.
Don't lose. Because, like you say, you lose to Yudong, then like...
We're so immature. Carry on.
Like, who are you fighting next?
Umar.
Do you know what I mean?
Jesus, you don't want that 5-fight losing streak.
I mean, even if he wins, is that a potential next fight?
Oh, I don't know, man. Like, it's not a good place. I don't know how this has happened. That fucking knee. What were you doing, mate? If he doesn't knee Aljamain Sterling in the head, he stays the champ. And I don't know who he would have been fighting next. The Corey Sandhagen, maybe. And he beat Sandhagen for the interim belt after that. So then he wins that one. And then who's he fighting after that? I don't know. Maybe Mirab, maybe, I don't know. But it's just like, does he go up in weight and fight Volk? And there's a parallel universe where Petr Yan beat Volkanovski. There's a double champ. I don't know. But this is just mad to think. There were times where I even said on this show, I think Jan's going to run this division for many years.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
Everything we saw was indicating that he was leagues above everyone else in the division. And then, I don't know, and he proved it against Aljo in the first fight. He was better. And then the second fight, obviously it's way more competitive. Aljo was way better. But there are people that think Jan won that fight, and there's people that think Jan beat O'Malley. So, yeah, I mean...
You see fighters that get on, that are people saying that these are the most exciting fighters in the division, and then they take a couple of losses and it is that rapid decline. But I don't think it's fair to kind of bolt him in with that yet. I think we saw the last loss, was convincing. But like you say, all those previous ones were very, very tight, and yeah, I don't know. I'll be interested to see what happens when he gets his hands on Yadong.
Well, speaking of Yadong, I mean, he's not got much to lose.
No, he's got. This is a dream fight for him.
He's 5-1 in his last 6, and the loss was to Sandhagen. No shame in that whatsoever. He's only 26 years old, and the UFC clearly really like him. That he's been, I think, he's headlined his last 3 fights, and that's without there being a belt involved. He's not a huge personality.
He's alpha male, isn't he?
Yeah, he's from Team Alpha Male. Yeah, so maybe there's a Uriah Faber contact, something there where, they're giving him slightly favourable treatment. But he is a good fighter, an exciting fighter at times. But he's not pulling in huge fan base, I don't think, unless he's huge over in China and I'm just not aware. But he's headlined the last 3 fight night, 3 fight night main events he's headlined the last 3 fights he's had.
That's quite unheard of, isn't it?
That's big. I don't know if it's unheard of, but it feels like a big deal for someone that's not a huge person. He's not like a Derek Lewis that everyone's like, oh, Derek's fighting, whatever. Why are you snoring?
What? It's Derek Lewis. Sorry.
I love Derek. You don't like Derek Lewis?
No, bores me.
What are you telling me?
No.
He's got the most knockouts in UFC history. Yeah. How is he boring?
I don't get excited by Derek Lewis.
What is wrong with you?
Don't get excited by him. I like the post-fight stuff.
I like the pre-fight stuff. I like the post-fight stuff. I love the during-fight stuff.
Just don't do it for me.
What, his fights, even when he gets beat, Taito Ivasa, Sergey Pavlovich. Brilliant. Yeah. It wasn't his fault that Almeida was so boring when he fought him the last time. We know Derek's not got a great ground game.
Francis.
Oh, that was unique, wasn't it? That's never happening again. That was very unique. Oh, well, you hate Francis as well, do you?
No, I like Francis.
Well, there you go, see?
Anyway, look, I don't want to stop talking about Yadong. So, go on. So, he's headlined 3 fight nights.
But no, I'm just saying he's got not much to lose. He's doing really well. The UFC clearly like him, so he can get a push. If he wins this fight, he could get pushed up the division. So... I do think, though, in terms of results, I think Petr Yan comes back. I think he squeaks a decision out here. I don't think it's going to be easy. Yan consistently seems to start very slowly, so I wouldn't be surprised if Song Yadong wins the first round. Round 2 is closer, but Yan edges it, and then round 3, Yan takes it. And he's back in the win column because he can't keep losing, surely. But if he does lose, Lord knows where he goes to next. He might be the winner in terms of the lottery of getting who's next to get Umar Nurmagomedov. And Song Yadong, man, great stuff for him going forward. Brilliant stuff for him. Let's say 26 years old. Phenomenal stuff.
I mean, the fact that this is a prelim... I mean, I know it's top in the prelims, but...
Just for anyone that's just listening and not watching.
Curtis Blades versus Almeida. I mean, Curtis Blades must be thinking, oh, come on. Because he's technically title contention, isn't he? Like, if he wins,
the winner of this fight could fight for the belt next. And when I say the belt, I mean Tom Aspinall's belt, not John Jones's belt.
And bear in mind, Curtis has got a win over Tom. You know, however you want to look at that, you know, he has. And I don't know. I just think Curtis Blades must just be thinking. I don't think he's a fan favourite, Curtis Blades.
No. I think it's harsh. I think he's actually really good, and he has got some knockouts.
And he's a style that I think that's a style.
You more of a fan of Curtis Blades than Derek Lewis?
No.
But Derek Lewis gets you frigging snoring.
He bores me, Derek. I can't help it.
How can Derek Lewis?
Right, listen.
That's a terrible take. I just can't get anyone on the comments is going to be listening to this going, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, how is Derek Lewis boring? But Curtis Blades, you're like, oh yeah, no, I love Curtis Blades.
No, what I was going to say was, I think Curtis Blades' style is, I have him as the most problematic opponent in the heavyweight division for Tom Aspinall.
Agreed. Yeah.
So that's why I think Blades deserves a bit more respect for where he is on the card here. I think
that's fair enough.
It's rough. But yeah, well, hopefully the comments will come at me for that, because I didn't get an opportunity to talk about my road to the championship for Dustin Poirier once he's beaten Benoit.
Imagine if you were just like a year off. For anyone that's new to the show, I think it was the end of 2023, Stu predicted that Dustin Poirier would be the lightweight champion of the world, which was mental. But imagine
it was only one fight away.
It was not only one fight away. There's no way that Islam was going to lose to anyone. Anyway, we're going over all ground.
All right, so look, this is, do you think this is going to be an exciting fight? Curtis Blades versus Almeida?
Maybe, because I think it could end up on the feet. But more importantly, what I think is, I've been saying for about a year now that when Almeida finally fights someone in the kind of top 3, 4, 5 of this division, it will become very apparent that Almeida's too small for the elite at heavyweight, especially when he fights a grappler. Because Almeida seems to be, like, he's much smaller than all the other heavyweights by a couple of stone, I think.
Blades doesn't strike me as a massive heavyweight, though.
Oh, he's like 265.
Is he?
268. Yeah. Blades is a big boy. And Almeida usually weighs in around 230 something, I think. I think Blades will be considerably bigger. I think he'll be at least a stone bigger. Oh, something's going on here.
Oh,
you might have to mess around with your telly.
Yeah.
Where's the remote?
Keep talking.
I think I've been saying that Almeida's going to really struggle when he fights a grappler at heavyweight that's a proper heavyweight. I'm either going to be proved right or made to look a muppet. I just think stylistically this is a terrible matchup for Almeida. But if Almeida wins it, then he could call to fight Tom at 301, because 301 needs a headliner. We spoke earlier about the Makayev situation, Pantoja. That's all happening because the UFC have booked Alex Pereira, who was meant to be, I think, originally headlining UFC 301 in Rio de Janeiro. He was supposed to be headlining that, but they moved him to 300 because nothing was working out for them for 300. And now they are short a main event in Rio. At the moment, the only Brazilian champion or Brazilian star that isn't booked is Alejandro Pantoja. So that's why we're talking about the flyweight lows. But if Almeida can somehow pull something off here and call for Tom Aspinall to fight him in Rio, it's shit for Tom because, like, oh, your first title defense, you wanted John Jones, you wanted Stipe Miocic. No, your first title defense is Jailton Almeida in Rio. That's really shit for Tom. But maybe Tom just goes, yep, fine, do it. Because I would favour Tom all day long to beat Almeida. So Almeida's holding the lottery ticket here. If he gets past Blades, he could call his shot and get a huge moment in Rio where he's fighting for a title. Could be massive.
But if Blades wins, do you think he wants Aspinall again?
Yeah, for sure. Of course, because that's sort of like, he's technically got a win over Aspinall, but we all know there was a leg injury, and it wasn't even like the Sean O'Malley one where Cheeto did that kick. I think, didn't Tom kick Blades and then step back and his knee just went? So that was clearly an existing injury. I think Tom's spoken about that as well. So yeah, so I think Blades, as you mentioned, I think is the toughest stylistic matchup for Tom because he's big like Tom. He is a big, like 250 odd pound, 260 odd pound guy. Amazing grappler. So that takes away Tom's skill there because Curtis Blades can really wrestle. And he's athletic. He's not got the footwork of Tom Aspinall and the speed necessarily, but he's still athletic. He can explode and he can strike well and hit you with something big. But and Blades has only really struggled in terms of the Almeida fight. The reason I would really favour Blades has struggled with huge power punches. He's struggled with Ngannou, beat him twice. Derek Lewis, your least favourite fighter of all time, beat him once. Sergey Pavlovich. The only thing those three guys have in common is ungodly, I don't know, sinful power. It's just
Tom, it's like a truck, mate.
Yeah, but it's not deft touch like those guys. I know Tom does, but in terms of the Almeida fight, I don't think Almeida possesses that kind of power. So I don't think Blades should worry. He's not going to get hit with some sledgehammer of a shot like what he did against those three individuals that possess the kind of power that we're just like in awe of.
Yeah.
So that's why I think Blades gets this done, because maybe Blades can overpower him with the grappling. I would argue he maybe shouldn't, because Almeida is very good on the ground. Maybe he could reverse something or throw up a triangle or something. I don't know. I think on the feet, Almeida's very limited. Blades isn't the kind of striker that, say, a Tom Aspinall or someone like that is, but I don't think he's as limited as Almeida. Okay. And I think Blades will use his size and strength and be able to deal with him pretty well.
Okay.
Katlyn Seremana, formerly known as Chookagian, up against Macy Barber. Now, this is, again, prelim fight. Seremana, formerly Chookagian, ranked 4th, and Macy Barber ranked 6th. Chookagian only really, or just Chookagian, Seremana only really loses to kind of really top fighters. But she's a bit of a decision machine. She's not the most exciting to watch. It's very rare that she's involved in a fight with a finish. Barber's a bit better in that respect, and she does have a bit more personality the UFC could probably get behind. And if she wins this, she's on a 5-fight win streak, and this win would take her into the top 5. She'd probably be due a title shot if she won this fight.
Yeah.
But flyweight is sort of all over the place at the moment. Alexa Grasso is not booked yet, and her last fight was the draw in the rematch against Valentina Shevchenko. So I'm assuming that the Chevy fight gets booked again next. There's Blanchfield versus Fiorot. That's coming up in the next month or two, I think. And that should be a nailed-on number 1 contender shot. So if Barber beats Seremana, I still think she's probably going to have to fight one more time before she gets a title fight, because there's bits to do. I mean, even Zhang Wei Li is talking about moving up and fighting Grasso. That was a rumoured thing for UFC, or maybe not rumoured, but Grasso and Zhang were going back and forth on X and talking about fighting each other. So there's another person that might be ahead of her in the queue.
I'd love to see that.
So, but, you know, you never know. Things might, like with lightweight, if the dominoes fall in the right way for her, maybe she ends up being a backup fighter in a fight coming up soon and she can sneak into a win. But first she's got to get through the artist formerly known as Chookagian and get that win. If Chookagian wins, I mean, that's just more of the same, really. I don't think there's going to be any big implications. Gamrot RDA.
I mean, this is great.
It's phenomenal.
This is like way down on the prelims, and you're just like, oh my god, look, this is ridiculous. This is a headline fight. I mean, this is not going to be a boring fight by any means.
No, I think you've got one of the best grapplers in the division. I mean, obviously Islam's up there as probably the pinnacle, but Gamrot is so good with his grappling. RDA's really good, but I think Gamrot's just very, very special. And I think this is a really big fight. Again, this is the kind of forgotten fight in that lightweight tournament that we were mentioning earlier. These guys are way down the pecking order, but you never know. Things work out the right way. Gamrot beats RDA and makes a statement. Maybe he's a backup fighter and maybe he sneaks into a title opportunity at some point. But a win here puts Gamrot on a 3-fight win streak. And he's got a win over Sarukian. controversial. I actually scored it for Sarukian, but Sarukian could be getting the next shot if he beats Oliveira, and Gamrot technically has a win over him, so that will mean a lot as well. But I think he needs to grab people's attention. He can't just... I think he's probably going to win by decision, but I don't think that'll be good enough to really put him in people's minds when you've got Saint-Denis Poirier later in the night and 2 massive lightweight fights coming up at UFC 300.
Yeah.
He needs to really put a stamp on this, maybe get RDA out of there in the first 7 minutes by some really good submission or ground and pound or whatever it is that he does to really put a stamp on this and make people sit up and take notice of him because he's such a good fighter. And maybe call someone out, but I don't know. It's a shame for him that he messed up against Beneil Dariush, but I mean, there's no shame in that. I just realised it's a shame for him, but there's no shame in that. But you know what I'm trying to say. It's late. We've been talking a long time. We have. We've been talking a long time. But yeah, I don't know if there's a huge amount more to say about this fight other than maybe, unless you wanted to say anything in particular, I do this with a few fighters every now and again, like maybe Edson Barbosa and a couple of others, where I just go, we have to just pay homage to the resume, the CV of Rafael dos Anjos.
Right, I don't have that in front of me, but
I've got it in front of me.
Rally off, because it must be ridiculous.
Insane.
Go on.
Right, going backwards from most recent. Again, across 2 divisions, I might add, not just one division, across 2 divisions, this guy has been doing it with the best of the best. There's not many out there that would do this across 2 divisions. Vincente Luque, Brian Barberena, Rafael Fiziev, Renato Moicano, Paul Felder, Michael Chiesa, Leon Edwards, Kevin Lee, Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington, Robbie Lawler, Neil Magny, Tarek Safadine, Tony Ferguson, Eddie Alvarez, Donald Cerrone, Anthony Pettis, Nate Diaz, Benson Henderson, Jason Hyatt, but whatever, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Donald Cerrone again, Evan Dunham, Gleison Tebow's in there as well, Clay Guida, Jeremy Stevens. This is absolutely mental.
Yeah.
All of those names at one point in time were top fighters.
Yeah.
Except
and he seems like one of the nicest dudes as well.
He really does seem like a lovely bloke. And a fantastic moustache.
One of the best moustaches in mixed martial arts.
Oh, for sure. You put a cowboy hat on him, he looks like a proper, like I don't know, like Mexican cowboy type vibe, doesn't he?
But by no means his first rodeo.
No.
Right. Okay.
Oh, really good stuff.
You like this guy, don't you? You know there's always going to be some fun and games.
Oh, mate. Michel Pereira, arguably my favourite fighter to watch fight. I've not got a huge amount to say about this fight other than I think Oleg Zajic hits really hard and has got a lot of finishes, a lot of first and second round finishes. So I'm expecting this to be a fun scrap. I'm expecting it overall to play out on the feet. But if you a bit like Michael Venom Page, if you let Michel Pereira just run around that octagon like the Tasmanian devil that he is, just jump off the cage and he has calmed down a bit lately, which I'm a bit sad to see because I love him when he's just chaotic. But he's phenomenal to watch when he's on form, Michel Pereira.
Absolutely. We've also missed out on Pedro Munoz versus Kyler Phillips, and there's many more fights on this card, but we've been going for over an hour already. But the last fight that we want to talk about is, I believe it's a rematch, isn't it?
Yes, I think they fought before. I can't remember what happened.
Moroz versus Scotland's Joanne Wood, formerly Calderwood, former guest of the show, Jojo. I hope I'm not got this wrong, but I believe this potentially is the last rodeo for Jojo. I think this might be a retirement fight. Don't quote me on it. Really should have double checked that before we start talking about it. You pulling it up now?
I pulled up the fact that Marina Moroz beat Jojo Calderwood all the way back in 2015, so nearly 9 years ago. And it was a loss by armbar in round 1. Jojo will be a much better grappler than what she was back then. She will be now. But at 38 years of age, the question is going to be asked every time she fights now, is this her last fight? I would love to see her retire in the UK in front of like a home crowd that will really give her a good send-off. But she's made her life in America for a long time now. And I think she's been someone that the fans really loved. I don't think anyone's ever had a bad word to say about Jojo Calderwood.
Yeah.
Like, no fan is like, oh, I hate Jojo. Like, she's got that adorable voice and knees and elbows that will slice open anyone.
Yeah, and Muay Thai's phenomenal.
And Muay Thai's phenomenal. She's been in real wars before where she puts on... she really brings it every time. She's not blessed with knockout power. That's not what she does. But she brings it every time. She'll get into a scrap. She never backs down. She blood all over her face and she's still coming forward, trying to throw those knees and elbows. And she will really give you a scrap.
Yeah.
So... yeah, I really just want to see good things for Jojo. If this is her last fight, I really hope she wins it and she goes out on top. But either way, whether she wins or loses, I'd like to see her maybe have one more in the UK so she can get a real proper send-off, because she deserves it. She's been around for a long, long time now. She was part of that Ultimate Fighter series that was like the inaugural kind of strawweight Ultimate Fighter series, along with like Carla Esparza and Rose Namajunas and Angela Hill and people like that. And I would love to see Jojo do well.
I was lucky to be in UFC in Glasgow when Jojo fought. The noise when she walked out there was absolutely unreal. It was so good. Go check out our chat with Jojo. It was one that we recorded quite early on in the podcast, and I mean, she gets the privilege of having John Wood in her corner and in her front room. I mean, he's on fire at the moment, isn't he? You're seeing John Wood training so many incredible fighters at the moment. I really hope that we're going to see a solid performance from Jojo. And if it is her last performance, then best of luck. Let's go, Jojo.
Let's go, Jojo.
Right. I think that's all she wrote. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on?
No, I'm just so bloody excited. I mean, I'm exhausted now. We've been talking about this card for a really long time. But I am so excited, and I can't believe that this card's finally upon us, and then we'll be building up to UFC 300.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are spoiled, mate.
At the moment, we are spoiled. There's so much good stuff coming our way. If you're a fan of MMA, this is a great time for all of us. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the podcast. It really helps us out and really boosts our profile in order to try and get big guests on the show. If you want us to be chatting to the likes of, we've had Carl Frampton on. Now, that interview will be coming out very, very soon. Michael Venom Page we had on, but if you want us to keep trying to get those big stars in studio and reaching out across the pond and stuff to get some of the bigger stars from the States, if you subscribe, it really helps us out. If you give us like positive reviews and 5 stars on all the podcast platforms and all that, really helps us out. I don't like begging for your subscriptions and positive reviews and things, but
I'm fine doing
Stu's
it.
shameless, he's fine with it.
Seriously,
But,
I'll pay you. Just
we'll
subscribe.
pay you.
Please, as Blake said, like and subscribe. Go check out, if you're on YouTube now watching this, then why not go and watch our chat with MVP, because it was a lot of fun. And if you're listening, and then why not go and have a look through the archives and listen to the chats that we've had with Corey Sandhagen, Jojo Wood, the likes of Dan Hardy, Volk. We've had them all on. So go and have a good old rummage in that archive. And like you say, when you're over there, subscribe. Have a great week, and we'll see you for UFC 299 post-fight show.
So excited. What's going to happen? I'm so buzzing.
Bye.
Bye.
Welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.